Hi, welcome to Time Out this evening. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to look back at the past voices we've heard from and just kind of touch again on the wisdom and instruction that they shared with us. Psalm 77 says, "I will remember the Lord's deeds. Yes, I will remember your wondrous acts from times long past." Each of these reflections offers a word of encouragement for us. This has been a challenging season, and we're super grateful for how these students have spoken to us. The first time out was Will, and we just love Will, don't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He's been such a great presence in my life as I got to work with him. His kind of enthusiastic, over the top, just joyfulness has really helped me as someone who can be really serious and kind of to the point. He's kind of been just such a joyful presence that has shaped me.
Yeah, for sure. I think ever since I met Will, we lived in the same hall his freshman year, even though I was a sophomore, LOL. And his joy has always been so radiant. You can literally feel it everywhere. And I think that that's where like we both just connect because we're both like the loud, like super exciting people. So getting to know him and having a friendship with him has honestly been like one of the best things that's happened to me at Loma. So Will, if you see this, I miss you so much. You're great. And
Love you, Will.
I'm excited to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gotten just the privilege of getting to talk to Will a little bit as I kind of step into the role. Will has been so encouraging. I have never felt so loved and appreciated and motivated. I know that Will's ministry here on campus will continue regardless of what his role looks like here at Point Loma, and just so grateful to call him friend. And yeah, Will, if you're watching this, we love you, dude, and we miss you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so today we're just going to kind of talk about these awesome timeouts that we got to hear throughout the semester. First, after Will, was Sierra Rucker, one of our worship arts interns. She kind of talked about what stress looks like in this season and how God's love invites us into the space of grace and of the allowance to take care of ourselves. And she did an amazing job of kind of giving some suggestions on what that looks like in this season, and to give yourself space to process your feelings, and even the suggestion of like, hey, like therapy's okay. The whole Christian community, like this is something that we need to get behind. And then Marco was next. Marco talked about kind of our identity in Christ and how in 1 Peter 2:9, how Jesus calls us out of this darkness and into this marvelous light, meaning that we are always changing, we're always growing and shaping, and that God's love has called us to be better, and what that looks like, and how we as a community of believers are the Lord's holy nation, and how we are complements to one another in a Christ-like manner. And then we heard from Shreya, who talked about just God's constant love and pursuit for us, and how Jesus gave us this free gift of sacrificing himself on the cross on behalf of us, and how we've done nothing to deserve that, but he so freely gave that to us, and how Jesus knew that we are messy and broken, and that we will continue to be that, and how he still sacrificed himself for us. And so overall, these three kind of changed my outlook on what it looks like to be a Christ follower, and how God's love transforms us in that, and how we are called to love ourselves and to love our neighbor because we are children of God, and to allow the overwhelming grace to pour through us in that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that transforming love, that transforming grace in the next three speakers as well. First, it was Tanner, who I had the privilege of being in his D group. It was great. He's a great guy. I love just how humble he is, and it's great to see that as someone who's older than me, just an older man do that is great. But his topic was surrender, and he just really embodies surrender too. It's just such a encouragement to see that and to follow in those footsteps where I can. He said that surrender can be this negative thing. It can be seen as defeat, but when you're surrendering to Jesus, it's not defeat. It's something that brings us victory. It's something that brings us life.
Yeah.
He really emphasized this too, that it was this continual thing, right? It's not just surrender once and you're done. It's this continual surrender, and this thing he said you do 24/7. I also liked his humility in asking for people to keep him accountable to that, to call him out into that. That's also just pointing to how this surrender isn't just us. It's not just one person. It's us calling each other to surrender, and it's us calling out other people too to surrender. Next week talked about Jenna, and I feel like Jenna's talk was just so honest. It's definitely something that was present in my life. She talked about friendship and how friendship is just really hard. Even at Loma, where there's so many things that people are do to encourage friendship, to encourage people to get out of their comfort zone, encourage people to be kind to each other, it can just be so isolating and so lonely. One thing she talked about was just being her true self before someone and then having that person not affirm her and kind of deny her. And that's something that's happened in my life before, and it was just so relieving to hear someone else talk about that pain, and also encouraging to hear how other friends in her life pointed to her to how Jesus wants our true selves, sees our true selves, and continues to love us, continues to accept us, even in all of that. Even at our lowest, even when we're sad Sam or sad Jenna, Jesus still loves us, and Jesus still thinks that we're worthy of love. So that was such an encouragement. Lastly, talked about John, or heard from John, but I want to talk about John. But yeah, John's a great friend of mine. He was in my freshman hall, and he's just been such a solid dude. Just always encouraged to see how he's pursuing Christ and how he is pursuing his faith. He talked about return to community through the lens of Ezra and Nehemiah, which are two books that I love, and just great to see people reaching into the wisdom of the Old Testament too. He talked about how coming back to community is also something that's hard. So we have surrender being hard, and we have friendship being hard, and now we have coming back to community, which is hard. And I just like the honesty and recognizing and affirming this is something that's hard. But John said, our ultimate hope is in Jesus. Our ultimate trust is in Jesus to make this coming back to community happen. We can't really do it on our own, but he also wanted us to recognize the great opportunity we have when we do come back. Even though it may not look like we thought it was going to look, there's an opportunity to do something new here, and just trusting in that to Jesus.
Yeah, I love that. The next three speakers I had were Kai, Heavenly, and Alicia. And I think what Kai said really tied into what you were saying that John was speaking about. Kai more so talked about boasting in the Lord. And to boast in the Lord, you have to have a relationship with him. I loved how Kai brought out the fact that he loves this soccer player, right? And he knows like everything about this soccer player, but this soccer player doesn't know him back. Like, Kai can only say good things about him, but he can't reciprocate that. And Kai was really bringing out the fact that when you know the Lord, you can boast in him. And there's a lot of things that we boast in, like our Instagram followers or the amount of likes we have, or even right now we could say like political parties. But an elephant and a donkey, Democratic, Republican may fail you, but the Lamb will never fail you. The Lamb of God will never be failing. And so I loved that Kai brought that out. That was amazing. Next, we had Heavenly, who talked about trusting in the Lord and trusting God's process. And for me, that really, really hit home because a lot of times it's hard to trust what God has for you when you can't see the end goal. And she talked a lot about Daniel and how he was called, like God called him. And after God did call him, he then went back to herd in the fields, which is crazy because like, you know that you're this king, but then it's like, nah, like you're going back to the field. And so I thought that was really amazing how she brought that out because, at times, God gives us promises, but at times there's still a preparation and a process that you have to go through. The process or the promise doesn't come without the process. And so I loved how Heavenly really emphasized on that. And then lastly, we had Alicia, and her story was very, very resonating with me, and we relate in a lot of ways. Alicia is one of my really good friends, and she read Hebrews 12 and 11, and I want to read that for you because I think that it really can speak to a lot of us and where we're at right now. It reads, "No discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It's painful. But afterwards, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way." And I think that that's so powerful because right now with COVID and not being able to come to school or go out with your friends, right now this is a painful process. This is a painful time and it's so hard. However, if you really dive into, spending time with your family and spending time with God, I believe that the harvest that you reap from that will be great. And so although it is painful right now, there is a harvest that's coming that's greater than your pain. And so I loved all three things that these speakers had to say. And then lastly, we have the amazing Hadley that talked about her process of basically transitioning into being in this team with us. And we're so excited to have her here.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited for that.
Yeah, I can already, even just doing this, I can tell how she's embodying being a listening ear. And I'm excited for how her personality and her gifts will let her live into this role. We're just excited to work with you.
Thanks, guys. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you guys. Feel like we're going to be homies already. Yeah. I think I speak for all three of us in each of our roles when I say this, but we love you. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are so grateful for those who we've mentioned today who have poured their gifts and their time into speaking into Time Out this year. And we are so excited for next semester and just the ways that the Lord is going to continue to work through this Point Loma community, regardless of what it ends up looking like. But I think we can all say that we are ready to welcome you back with open arms. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for just kind of talking about the ways in which God is here and he's working and God's going to continue to work. We'll see you another time.